18th of October 2020. Moving now through the fall season. I trust that you are doing well. I want to share the word of the Lord with you from Psalm 91 and just the first two verses of that psalm. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I will trust. This is the word of the Lord. I want to talk to you a little bit today about shadows. The whole idea of shadows came to my attention this week as I was sitting in my office looking out the window. It was a beautiful, beautiful sunny fall day, so typical of Southern Ontario. And I was looking out of the window of my office and I saw this shadow of a cross on the grass. I thought, wow, the Lord's really wanting to get my attention. But as I examined it a little closer, it maybe was the fact that the Lord wanted to get my attention, but really it was a light standard and a branch that had come together in perfect harmony to create this shadow, which looked to me very much like a cross. So I'm satisfied with how that depiction of the cross actually arrived on the grass as a shadow. I don't want to investigate that any further. It got my attention. And it led me to thinking about the value of living in the shadow of the cross. The shadow of the cross is the theme of a great hymn that was written by Elizabeth Cecilia Clephane. She was born in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1830. She died 39 years later, did not even reach her 40th birthday. Her hymns and her poems appeared in a document called the Family Treasury. And this particular hymn, and perhaps two others, came under the specific title of Breathings on the Border. Reverend W. Arnott of Edinburgh, Scotland, was able to publish these. And this Breathings from the Border was not talking about the border between England and Scotland or the border defined by Hadrian's Wall. No, it was talking about the border between life and death. And here's what Reverend Arnott wrote about her writings. These lines, he said, express the experiences, the hopes, and the longings of a young Christian lady lately released. Isn't that beautiful? A young Christian lady lately released. Written on the very edge of this life with the better land fully in the view of faith. They seem to us footsteps painted on the sands of time, where these sands touch the ocean of eternity. These footprints of one whom the Good Shepherd led through the wilderness into rest may, with God's blessing, contribute to our comfort and direct succeeding pilgrims. Listen to some of the words from the hymn that he was referring to. Beneath the cross of Jesus, I fain would take my stand. The shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within the wilderness, a rest upon the way from the burning of the noontide heat and the burden of the day. I take, O cross, thy shadow for my abiding place. I ask no other sunshine than the sunshine of his face. Content to let the world go by, to know no gain nor loss. My sinful self, my only shame, my glory, all the cross. Oh, this is so encouraging. So now when I think about the shadow of the cross on the grass in front of the building, I think to myself, what a wonderful place to be. What a wonderful provision of the Lord to be able to dwell in that shadow. And that provision is given for a reason. And the reason is that there are other shadows that are just longing for our habitation. The devil wants to see to it that instead of living in the shadow of the cross, we would live in his shadows. He provides the shadow of uncertainty, the devil does. Perhaps as you watch this morning, you're filled with that uncertainty. You're not even sure if your job is secure anymore in these days. You don't know how to pay rent, perhaps, or mortgage payment that's due. Perhaps these realities are casting a long shadow over your life and the life of your family. Maybe you're living under the shadow of disappointment. Tried everything. You've trusted everyone, and over and over and over again, you've been disappointed. You've been let down. Perhaps this is casting a long shadow over your life and the life of your family today. There's the shadow of fear. Maybe you've just received bad news from the doctor. Maybe you are feeling completely paralyzed by the present circumstance of that. Maybe you've got fear for your family, for your children, for your grandchildren. Perhaps these are the realities that are casting a long shadow over you and your family today. I want to encourage you that if that is your condition, if that is your situation, the words from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 4 and verse 16, I think are very timely for this shadowy era that we are living in. Hear the word of the Lord again. The people who were living in darkness, or people who were living within the long shadow, have seen a great light. On those who were living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. This, of course, is referring to Jesus and his coming, because the context of that is both Old and New Testament. The New Testament narrative reminds us that Jesus, after hearing that John had been put in prison, returned to Galilee. He left Nazareth and he went to live in Capernaum, which was in the lake area of Zebulun and Naphtali. Those are two geographical areas that are very important for us to remember today, in order to fulfill what was said through the prophet Isaiah. The land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, the way to the sea along the Jordan, the Galilee of the Gentiles, the people who were living there, the people who were living in the darkness of that region, have seen a great light. This is an Old Testament fulfillment from Isaiah chapter 9. Now, if I talk to you about Isaiah chapter 9, our minds would go perhaps immediately to the Christmas story, and we would be familiar with some of the words in there that seem to get most attention from that chapter. For unto us a child is born, for unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and he shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. But embedded in that very same chapter at the beginning, in fact, the very first verse, we read these words: nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who are in distress. If I were to bring that into harmony with what we're talking about today, I said there'll be no more gloom for those who are living under the long shadow. For the light of Christ, the light of Jesus, has not only crept in to invade that darkness, the light of Jesus actually obliterates it. And we no longer have to live in the shadow of those circumstances, in the long shadow of distress, but we can live in the shadow of the cross of Jesus, covered by the rock that is in this weary land. What shadow are you living under today, I guess, is the question that I would want to ask. Obviously, it's rhetorical, but maybe in your mind you can respond to that. Paul Simon, one half of Simon and Garfunkel fame, wrote a song, and the song was entitled Mother and Child Reunion. He got that title when he was sitting in a restaurant in Chinatown, New York City, and he was about to order breakfast, and he looked at the menu, and on the menu was this title, Mother and Child Reunion. He asked the server, "What is that?" The server said, "Well, it's chicken and eggs." Chicken and eggs. Mother, the creator of the egg, and egg, the creation, together on the same plate. And he took that title as an inspiration for a song that I don't think has much to do with what he ordered, but nevertheless, it's the title of the song. I would argue strongly today that God has provided a menu for us. It's not written on a page of a restaurant, but rather it's written on a hill called Golgotha, where Jesus died. It's just one item on the menu, and it's been prepared for us from before the foundation of time. It's not mother and child reunion. It's father and child reunion. For in that act, where God gave his only son to die for us on Calvary, he reunited the fallen nature of mankind with the righteousness of God through his son, Jesus. And he gave his life so that we could be redeemed, remade, reinvented, renewed through a great miracle of grace and a miracle of sacrifice. And our ability to say yes to that, we are reunited with our Father in heaven through his son, Jesus. And along with that comes the ability to, yes, live in the shadow of the cross. For that cross casts a long shadow. If disaster and despair and all of those negative things cast a long shadow, the cross casts an even longer one, going everywhere to beckon us to live within it. This song, authored by Jack Rowlands, or at least ascribed to Jack Rowlands, who was a former police officer and became a pastor in Detroit, Michigan. Now, mind you, people who have sung this song since have added words. They've got different words. So here's perhaps a combination of some of the words that I would just close with and quote them for you. It's a song called "Standing Somewhere in the Shadows You'll Find Jesus." When the world is crumbling round you and everything goes wrong, and you feel like there's no use to carry on, just remember Jesus loves you and he careth for his own. So trust in him and faith will lead you on. Are there shadows of deep disappointment and trusts that have proven untrue? Has the darkness of night settled round you? Has your hope and your faith wavered too? Has the storm overshadowed your sunshine and life lost attraction for you? Have the dreams that you cherished been broken? Is your soul filled with bitterness too? Standing somewhere in the shadows, you'll find Jesus. He's the only one who cares and understands. Standing somewhere in the shadows, you'll find Jesus, and you'll know him by the nail prints in his hands. Oh, I can't wait for the sun to shine and produce another beautiful cross shadow on the lawn outside the office, because I'm going to gaze upon it. But even when it's cloudy and the sun isn't shining, I can still enjoy living in the shadow of the cross. I trust that's where you're living today. If you're not, you can. Just reach out to Jesus, for he is reaching out to you. May the Lord bless you. I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Bye for now.